Hello, I'm Jonathan Decker, licensed therapist.
I'm Alicia Decker, co-founder of Mended.
And this segment is called That Therapists Say because it has come to our attention that not all therapists are the best, and even great therapists say some stupid crap. I'm sure I have before. The issue with this is if you come to a therapist, you're looking for guidance, you're looking for counsel, you're looking for someone who can help you through some of the hardest things in your life. And if a therapist is not just having an off day, but insensitive or ignorant or flat out wrong, it can do more damage than good. And so we're seeking to undo. We reached out to the community and said, what are some of the most harmful things that therapists have said to you? And one thing that I could not believe, like absolutely blew my mind, was the implication that if a person was sexually abused, that was in any way, shape, or form that person's fault.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
What do you think about that?
Well, and I think in this situation, it's not just therapists that may say this, but
Yeah.
it's family members. You could use the words friends loosely, because I would say anybody that said that is not your friend. But people you know, acquaintances, friends, family members, anyone saying that sexual abuse was the fault of the person who was abused is absolutely not true.
Well, and we need to be taking this where it belongs, to the perpetrators. We need to be holding them accountable. Because there's an idea out there, especially, I mean, it is true, women can sexually abuse men,
Right.
but far more often it's the reverse.
Right.
And there's this idea that men can't control themselves. So if you dress a certain way, or if you're flirtatious, or if, you start to get physically involved and then say, never mind, that you were somehow asking for it and you deserved what you got, or at the very least, you shouldn't have put yourself in that situation.
You know what? It's not my fault you're like in love with me or something. What?
Oh, no, she did not.
I mean, most people won't flat out say, you were raped and that's your fault, or you were assaulted and that's your fault. Most people actually wouldn't say those exact words. But some sort of, oh, you should have been more careful, or, oh, well, maybe next time don't act like that, comes out a lot. What are your thoughts on that?
Most people who would say something like that, they want to believe that is the circumstance. They want to believe like you must have done something, because if it's not on some level the person who was abused their fault, then the reality is it could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
It could happen to them. It could happen to their child, their friend. And so they want to believe in their world of safety that couldn't happen. And then therefore they're victim blaming.
Right.
Because it creates more, not real safety, but pretend safety in their life.
The illusion of safety, yeah. Like, that's not going to happen to me because I don't dress like that.
Yeah.
Right? I don't wear those clothes. That's not going to happen to me because I don't flirt with strangers, or I don't get physically involved with, like all sorts
With
of...
unsafe people.
With unsafe people, right? And the fact is, sexual abuse is tragically common. I believe I read it, was it 1 in 4 women?
Yeah. From personal experience, it's more like 9 in 10.
So 1 in 4 maybe report it.
Right.
And it gets recorded like with, on police or whoever, but more like 9 out of 10, really. Yeah, I believe that. And it's not that like all men are scum, but it's that you have, but go ahead.
Well, it's that so often the people who are abusers abuse repeatedly before they're caught. Statistically, anywhere from 50 plus times that they'll abuse someone before they're caught.
Yeah. And there's various, trigger warning. I guess this whole video is a trigger warning, but I worked at a prison, at a juvenile detention center with adolescents who were sexual offenders. Like, that's what they were in there for. And for many of them, they were victims first, and how they saw the world was power. Who has power, who doesn't? I've been powerless, and the people who sexually assaulted me, they had the power. I want to be the powerful one now, right? And like their empathy, and that's not to say that people who are sexually assaulted become assaulters, because many don't. But for a lot of people, their empathy is like switched off. And the work of therapy was getting them to a place of actually realizing the damage that they'd done. And it was amazing to see how many of them, it would just completely break them down when like their humanity started to turn back on.
Yeah.
And
Because they had shut off the pain of their abuse.
And that's not to say, oh, poor sexual abusers.
No.
It's to say that people are human. And when we look at sexual abusers, you have people who are predators, who are vicious, evil nasty predators, and you have a lot of people who are like, well, this is how the world works, and who buy into the narrative of well, I would never, and this is, I hate to use the phrase, but this is the phrase, the whole slut shaming thing, right? Well, I would never take advantage of a classy woman. I would never take advantage of somebody who, but you should have seen how she was acting, or you saw what she was wearing, or she got dressed or she got drunk around all of us, and why would she do that if she didn't want to be unsafe? Like there's all sorts of things that people buy into, and unfortunately, we support that when we shame the victim instead of saying, no, this is never okay. Ever, ever, ever.
But you can't do this to me.
Well, and something else about trauma is almost everyone internalizes that trauma. So even without the implication of uneducated people saying, well, on some level, this was your fault, you already feel like it was your fault. You already feel that it was something that was innately wrong with you.
Yeah.
And so that thought process is so easily reinforced by careless or naive or uneducated individuals who imply that it was the fault of the person who was abused.
And that's one of the reasons why I want to do this video today, and I want to do it with you, is this whole idea that anybody is asking for it, that anyone gives up the right at any moment to say no, to say this is not okay for me, this is not what I want. That someone, by virtue of their behavior or their dress, has conceded their right to be a human being and is now, a toy, is now something to be used and discarded, is wrong, is absolutely wrong. And the reason I brought up the adolescents before that I worked with, and I'm saying that not all people who sexually offend are complete and total monsters, the reason I say that is because those who aren't, when we shift the dialogue to there is nobody that you can just take and take advantage of, that is never okay. Like getting them to see that there is nobody who is saying, yes, do what you want with me, and if I say no, I'm just playing hard to get, right? Or I'm less than human because of what I'm wearing or how I'm acting. Like that is actually, the more I say it, the more they do sound like monsters. But I guess it's in my nature as a therapist. I've worked with a lot of people who, I'm sitting in the room with them and I'm appalled at what they've done. I'm sitting in the room with them and I'm sick at what they've done.
You make me vomit.
And in order for them to change the behavior, I have to help them find their humanity. It's very Luke and Darth Vader, it's very, this is a tangent to what we're talking about today, but it is related. It is important. There's also this component of abusers are people who are generally in positions of power. That's how they can abuse.
Right.
And if I'm in a position of power, then I've created this facade of who people think I am. And so I can get away with all sorts of stuff behind the scenes because people believe I'm this great person, right? And then if it comes out like there's an accuser, well, it has to be a false accusation. They said that about Bill Cosby for years. It has to be a false accusation. They're just gold diggers. They're just looking for money. They're just looking for their 15 minutes of fame. I heard all those things for years as woman after woman came out about Bill Cosby because he was America's dad, because he was so wholesome, because he'd done so much for Black America, because like all these different reasons. And that position of power and authority and that image that he had concocted publicly allowed him to get away with a lot of things until the evidence was absolutely overwhelming. And when the evidence was absolutely overwhelming, then the discussion turned to, okay, this happened. So how did these women, in what ways were they asking for it? In what ways were they trying to make this happen? In what ways, you know what I mean? Like all of it just made me sick. You seemed like you had something you wanted to say a minute ago. I'm sorry.
You were talking about positions of power, right? And if there's an adult and if there's a child, there's always that dynamic of the adult has the position of power.
Yeah.
And quite often there is grooming behavior associated with it. And no child can ever consent. Even if the child said, okay, like this is okay, no child can consent to any sexual interaction.
Yeah.
That they don't have the cognitive capability to even understand what that is.
And yet the perpetrator will convince them, look what you made me do. That is one way.
It's our secret.
Or it's our
if
secret.
you tell someone, I'm going to hurt someone you care about or nobody else will believe you. And so if you experienced that as a child, you need to know that that was nothing you could have consented to.
And then there's also the this is how we show love. This is how we show, I mean, grooming kids to believe that this is a normal part. I mean, I've worked with clients. I have one client in particular who she remembers going over to a friend's house and realizing that that friend's father doesn't sexually abuse her friend.
Yeah.
And just recognizing this isn't normal what's going on at my house. This isn't, you know, and it never occurred to her before.
Right.
And that's the thing, whether you're adult, whether you were a child, whatever stage this was in, no matter what was going on, no matter what anyone said to you. And a lot of you understand this on a cognitive level, but on an emotional level, it's hard to get over. Like, rationally, you can say, this wasn't my fault. But emotionally, it still very much feels like it is.
Right.
Because to a kid, you want to believe that the adults in your life are safe. And if there's a problem, then it's my fault. Because if it's my fault, I can fix it. If it's not my fault and it really just is the adults, then I'm not with safe people. And so you internalize, this is my fault, this is me, this is me, this is me. And the only way out of it is, in my opinion, I mean, there's lots of steps to trauma treatment, but a big part of it is, what advice would you give somebody who was in your shoes? Because a lot of people feel like, I deserve that. Would you say that to anybody else? No, absolutely. I would say that you couldn't have chosen that. You had no control over that. You didn't deserve that, right?
It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
We want to thank you all for joining us today on Therapists Say, and what other people say. There's a lot of out there. Be careful not to step in it. The fact is, not all advice is good advice. So if you have received advice from a therapist or anybody else, check it against your gut, check it against your heart, your mind, your soul, and ask other trusted sources. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. If you have questions about how to overcome the scars of sexual abuse, we're here to help you. Please sound off in the comments below. Or you can send us a private message on Facebook. Just look for Mended Light. We have numerous pages and groups. We will find your message.
If you're struggling with healing from trauma, check out our video, How Trauma Affects the Brain. And will you do me a favor? If this video has helped you, please share it with those you know and love that are experiencing this same challenge. Remember to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss a thing. Remember to keep shining. We need your light.